While we're on the topic of former friends in accordance with my last video, the April Fool's one, this time I do want to talk about a friend who I actually really did not want to let go of for the longest time ever. I'm not saying her name or whatever or describing her, her like appearance and all that. All I'm disclosing is that she's a girl and she's my age. We were in the same graduating year in high school. Um, I actually met her in my sophomore year of high school, the year I came back to school in person after spending, my freshman year online due to COVID and all that junk. So I I lost my freshman year of high school, which is arguably the most important year of high school. I don't know. We had actually met through a mutual friend. Uh, this guy, the friend, right? This mutual friend, I'd actually been good friends with since elementary school and all throughout middle school. Um, and then of course, like I got isolated in high school, and yeah. But he introduced her to the rest of the friend group. Um, And I would say this is around probably like the beginning of my second year, the beginning of my sophomore year. I think we had like one or two classes together or something like that. Um, I would say that we actually clicked pretty quickly and pretty well. Our interests were actually pretty similar, surprisingly, right? And our humor was also somewhat similar and very, very steadily. And almost felt natural, right? We eventually became like non-verbally said like best friends. It literally got to a point where like a couple people, not a lot of people, maybe like one or two people, like rarely on the from time to time, would ask me if me and her were ever like dating or something like that. And just to set the record straight, we never did, and it for sure didn't ever come close to even like an inkling of that. Um, I probably sound a little hypocritical because I think in my last video I said like I don't really know anyone truly, um except for like their birthdays. I never found out what food or color they liked or whatever. But really all I ever found out about this girl was that like we had similar interests and humor and junk like that. So, and I did know her birthday. So I suppose like I knew her pretty well, but the criteria could the criteria could always change, for or something like that. Your definition of friendship changes over time, and suddenly the people that you thought were friends aren't really classified as friends anymore, at least to you, right? Anyways, again, we clicked pretty quickly and pretty much almost stuck together for the rest of, our sophomore year. Um it was relatively the same in my junior year. I would say like in the beginning, right? But it started to taper off a little uh in the second semester, I would say, and it never really got back to what it was in my sophomore year, right? And I mean, admittedly, I mean that does suck. I think a large part of that was because I'm pretty sure I think she started hanging out with like um other friends and girls and stuff during lunch and all that. And obviously like I had no problem with it, right? Of course. We did hang out a little bit after school, not like often or like every day or something like that, but more so on just like unique and special occasions. Like I remember um twice we went to an anime convention together, and sometimes we'd have we'd just like eat lunch, and there was actually a time where we actually skated, um, just like around downtown and stuff like that. She also played basketball for our high school. And like the only reason why I bring this up is because she actually asked me often if I was going to be there or if I would ever come to one and watch her play. And I I remember I would always respond like in a non-committedly, way, replying like, "Oh, I'll have to see," or "Maybe I will, I don't know," or something like that, something equivalent to that. And like looking back on it, like I do wish that like I went to more, right, and did watch her play because I mean, shoot, maybe we would have got closer. I don't know. Um, the main reason why I responded like that is because like in recent years, I've become more and more of a homebody, and I didn't really see, I didn't really leave my house unless like it called for like a real reason, a genuine reason, and going to sports games for our high school wasn't one of those reasons, and I didn't want to leave the house unless like there's like a really good reason not, or to, or really good reason to. Um, Another reason is because like again, I'd have no one close enough to hang out with at these games. Like I wouldn't know who even went to these games, right? And like all of it without being awkward, right? I didn't want to sit in the bleachers alone, right? For some reason, so I never went to any of the home games, even when she asked me to go and watch and try to get me and go, like saying, "Oh no, you should go and watch me play. You don't want to see me, or like, what if I hit a sick half court or something like that?" Um, I did end up going to one game in my senior year, but that was it. Literally, that was it. I left. I left immediately after the game was over, and as I was driving home, she ended up calling me and asking where I was, and I told her I left already. And I could hear it in her voice that she definitely was a little disappointed, and I felt really, really bad and really, really stupid. Granted, I didn't know that like I was supposed to stick around, but I like the first game I actually end up going to, right? I just left immediately, and I still feel really bad to this day. Like I kind of do wish I did stay. Um, that's totally on me. Um, in my senior year, my fourth year of high school and final year, graduating year, I could already tell that we weren't going to be friends for much longer. I didn't know how much longer, but it seriously really felt like, this was kind of it, right? Like it was over after high school. Like after we graduate, we're just never going to talk again, never going to hang out again. Um she started hanging out with like a whole different crowd, um and like even like making friends and all that junk, or like making new ones and stuff. And like by this time again, I started losing everybody. And it's not like we weren't really like on, it's not like we were on bad terms at all. Like, we were still good friends and stuff like that, but I think she just needed something that wasn't me, right? And I mean, anyone can get tired of anyone, right? Regardless of who they are to them, and it's something I totally understand. But it definitely changed something, and to me at least, I can't really speak for her, but to me, like nothing exactly felt the same after that, and it sucked. And again, I legitimately felt like, this was it. This is the last year, and I'm losing everybody. Um, yeah. Uh, Another thing I want to mention is that, like, I acknowledge that people change, over time, regardless of whatever that time frame is. And I admittedly 110%, I changed a lot from sophomore to senior year. I did. I would say I used to be a little louder in my second year. Um but for sure, for sure became extremely introverted and closed off by the time I was in my senior year. Um we hung out very rarely after we graduated and talked far, far less in comparison to my second or third year of high school. Even in my fourth year, my senior year, like, we just talked far, far less. And I started feeling like she just wasn't my friend anymore because we went from talking frequently and meshing really, really well together and even playing video games together to rarely, if even, talking. Um, and if we did hang out, things always felt a little awkward, and we just never played, another game together. Um, when I started feeling like this, I was just in so much denial because, like, I really, seriously, I really, really did not want to lose her. Even as a friend, I did not want to lose her. And it got to a point where she practically lived rent free in my head. Like, straight up. If it isn't obvious enough, like, I did like her a lot in a romantic sense. And I fully managed to delude myself into thinking that she could be my first relationship. Genuinely. Simply because of how well we seemed to hit it off as friends and how similar our interests were, and just how good things were. Of course, like, I never actually ended up asking her out of just pure fear, pure unbridled fear that I would make things weird between us, and if I did, that it would just completely ruin our friendship, and we wouldn't even be able to look at each other the same if I did. Um, Even if I did ask her out, like, I know for a fact, 100% internally, that, like, she wouldn't say yes because, like, I'm quite literally the complete opposite of her type. So I never asked her out, and I kept absolutely everything bottled up inside like I usually do. But even after knowing that, like, I I just was not her type, I still felt this way. I have no clue why. I think it's probably because, like, maybe it felt like there was a chance or something like that. I don't know. Again, like, I seriously did not want to let go of her. And at the very least, be friends with her. Um I definitely feel like I did something wrong, right? Like, or maybe it's as simple as, like, she just got really tired of me, of hearing my voice, maybe seeing me, my presence, whatever, just tired of me. Um, like one part of me was 110% content with being friends, but, like, another part of me just so desperately wanted so much more, right? So much more than just friends or best friends. I wanted, so much more. I've never told her about this, about, like, how I felt, and how I was, like, massively crushing on her and all that junk. And truthfully, I probably never will. Fast forward to a few months ago, and I think in, like, mid January, I want to say, maybe mid to late January, I ended up just I ended up just completely silently unfollowing her from, all social media, and removing her as, one of my followers as well. Um the main reason why I did this, it wasn't because like she did something wrong or anything like that, or she's a bad person. Cause like she's not a bad person, right? She's a great person. She's super dope, super chill, really funny. Um, but it was primarily because I felt like she was clearly moving on, and I wasn't, right? And I felt like, you know, unfollowing her and removing her as my followers was the only way for me to move on. Um, excuse me. I I was still, even at this time, I was still clinging on to whatever false hope that I had deluded myself with, right? Maybe there's a chance that things, would go back to the way they were, and we'd, you know, just mesh together really well again. Um, again, she literally lived just rent free in my head because I just caught heavy feelings for someone I was never meant to catch feelings for. Um, and that's just totally on me. Even after knowing, like again, even after knowing that I'm literally not what she's looking for, like I still clung on. For some reason, I was still even crushing on her because I kept telling myself that there's there could be some off chance, even though like I never I never showed any signs or even like said it outright. I just don't know. I wish I did tell her. I I wish I did tell her that I liked her, and I had all these feelings for her before, I had done all that unfollowing stuff. Because maybe it would have given me more closure and stuff like that. And I do still wish that, maybe there could be some kind of connection between us, even if it's not quite, friendship. Maybe there's just something like, a door always being open or something like that. But I don't know. It just, it, to me, it just feels like it's some sort of fleeting thing. And nothing's really, set in stone. Um, she hasn't been on my mind lately, which I think is good. I think it's good, and I think it's, you know, great that I think I'm finally moving on, and she's not really living rent free in my head anymore. And I mean, like, you, with everything, you always have to let go at some point. You always have to let go at some point.